Good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to our Families as Partners summer webinar series. This is, gosh, I don't know, I've lost count. Number 6, number 7 in the series. We've been doing these since the middle of May. We want to welcome you wherever you're watching from. A couple logistics about our webinar tonight. We do have, this is a webinar, which means that you as participants, you as viewers, cannot post in the chat, but you can see the chat. And so we will attempt to post some links and some important information into the chat. You do, however, have the function of the Q&A, the question and answer. And that is where you can drop your questions, and we will try to get to those. The best questions are those that are going to help almost everyone. The harder questions are those that are so very, very specific to your student, your major, your timeline, those kind of things. We do want to get your questions answered, and we can. There will be email addresses and links posted later on in the webinar. It's my pleasure to almost be ready to turn the reins over to the fantastic Nickie Smith. Nickie is the Director for Housing Services here at Virginia Tech. She is a wealth of information and is going to be sharing a lot with you, and is going to kind of segment that sharing first for the Corps Cadet families briefly, and then kind of for the general population. But I think it's important for all of us to understand our Corps Cadet families and the students and what they experience here. It's a big part of being a Hokie. Okay, and so with that, Nickie,
Awesome. Thank you so much, Barry. As he said, my name is Nickie Smith. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Director for Housing Services here at Virginia Tech. Do have a lengthy list of things we're going to go over today. But off the top of that, I just want to remind you that we are going to communicate primarily with your student. So all of the information that I'm talking about tonight is going to go out in more depth to your student at their Virginia Tech email address. So if they are not already on that email address and checking it daily, they need to be, because we're going to communicate this to them as well. They are our contract holder. They are our primary person that we're going to focus on. And so just to underscore, everything about this is really going to be in your student's inbox. So with that said, as Barry mentioned, I do want to spend just a few minutes talking to our Corps of Cadet families and our incoming cadets, mostly because everything I'm about to talk about is a little bit different for our Corps, and in great ways. So in some ways, things are very streamlined for our cadet families. When it comes to housing assignments and move-in, these are really going to be decisions that are guided by the Corps. So all cadets are assigned by VTCC staff, and the Corps will give me their assignments late in the summer. So I am not going to have a list of cadet assignments until late July, early August. So I say that to say, you probably have some questions. What does this mean about my billing and my move-in time? Because everyone else is going to know more about that than I do right now. We got you. It's going to be okay. So just like all assignments for rooms are made by cadet staff, our new cadets are going to come in at times specified by the Corps staff. So my understanding from my Corps colleagues is that there's a Canvas assignment course that you're working with where you can sign up for your move-in time. So that means you're not going to work with us in the StarRes portal to pick a move-in time. You are already working with the Corps on that. So we're not going to be, our only email to you is going to say, we have you on record as an incoming cadet. Based on that, we know that you are coming for new cadet move-in, which is Friday, August 16th. We do not know the specific time. You need to follow the instructions of the Corps, because the Corps has a very tight schedule for that day. So you'll follow those instructions. Similarly, because we won't know your housing assignments until very late in July, we're going to do what's called a default bill. So that means that we know you're going to be living on the Upper Quad. We just don't know where yet. So we're going to go ahead and enter a generic Upper Quad bill to make sure that you get your housing bill in July like everyone else does, and you're not late to getting that. So don't be alarmed when you don't know exactly where you're living, but you have a bill. We know you're going to be somewhere on the Upper Quad. So to be clear, the Corps will work with you on your exact move-in time. The Corps will make your assignment, and they will notify us of those assignments late in July. The last thing I'm going to say is that housing services does not make us changes to cadet assignments or arrival times without being instructed by the Corps that they've approved it. So if you get your time to move in from the Corps and you reach out to us and say, hey, this doesn't work for me, I want to come in on this time or this date, we're going to politely tell you, appreciate that. I'm going to redirect you to the Corps of Cadets, or we'll help you reach out to them because we're not going to make those changes without their approval. I see that somebody has raised a hand. If there's a question, if you wouldn't mind putting that into the Q&A, I will be I promise I'll get to that as quickly as I can. I am only one person, so I'll be bouncing back and forth. But if any raised hands or questions, please drop in the Q&A and I will get to them as quickly as I can.
I didn't see the raised hand. I got to figure out how this thing works.
I believe in you.
Technology.
Yes, I believe in you. But yeah, that is a pretty quick overview of how assignments and billing and move-in times are going to work for our new cadets. If that has answered all of your cadet questions, you are welcome to head out. If not, you're welcome to stay put. So the question is, my son's going to be at Pearson West, but is it a cadet? When would his move-in be? Please stay tuned. We will talk about that shortly. Your student is a civilian, and that is the bulk of what we're going to cover tonight. So if there are any cadet questions really quickly, I'll address them. Hopefully, because it's pretty straightforward, that worked out well for folks, but did want to cover that off the top. So with that said, we will
sounds like they just need to pay very close attention to the information they're getting from the Corps of Cadets, which Absolutely. Is what we say to every phone call that comes in here too about Corps of Cadets. Yeah.
Yes. The Corps is very communicative and they are very quick to respond to their incoming cadets. So if you have any questions and you reach out to them, I have every confidence that you'll hear back in a very timely manner. So with that said, I'm going to switch gears and talk to our civilians. So all of our students who are not a cadet, not part of the Corps of Cadets. And I kind of want to start with a little bit of philosophically, why do we do move-in appointments? Instead of just saying the doors are open, everybody come in. So we have a few reasons for that. I don't know if any of you have had older siblings or older members of the family who have been Virginia Tech students in recent years, but you may remember a few years ago, before we had move-in appointments, it was kind of a bit of a free-for-all. We opened the doors at 8 a.m. on a Thursday, and when we did that, we had traffic backed out all the way to 81. Just not an optimal experience for anyone. So we do move-in appointments to help manage that traffic flow, to ensure that we have adequate parking in our designated lots and in our times, to make sure that we're able to clear lots between one set of appointments and the next coming in, so that folks who get here a little later in the day don't have to stress about will there be parking in the lots that are closest to their residence halls, because we know we've timed them out and they will be there. It also helps us stage the laundry moving carts and hand trucks appropriately. Our staff actually relocates carts every night. So when we get to August, we are going to have this incredibly big diagram of how many people are coming into what building at what time on what day. And our conference staff and our maintenance and operations staff is going to take that breakdown, and they are going to restage carts to make sure that we, as things flux between maybe one building has more people coming in one day and less people the next day, they're going to restage those carts so that we make sure we get carts to the buildings that need them on the days that they need them. Move-in appointments make that possible. So this is why these are so important to us, and why they mean a lot to us. It helps us make your move-in experience as smooth as it could possibly be. We know it's already a really stressful time. There's a lot going on, and so not having to worry about traffic out to 81, knowing that you're going to have a parking spot in that lot, knowing that there are going to be carts at the building, just very small things that we can do to help make that day a little easier. So with that said, how do they actually work? In some ways, they're very similar to room selection. Students will get a time after which they can log on to the StarRes portal. They can go into the appointments section and they can pick whatever day and time works for them. This is it literally looks like a little calendar with little circles that say we've got 25 appointments available this day at this time, 24 available here, 22 available here. So it's a very easy and very visually easy system to work through. Students are only going to see the times they're available to move in. So we'll get a little bit more to that later, but just as a big picture perspective, if you don't see it when you log in, it's not available. We're not holding anything back. We're not hiding anything from anybody. We make every appointment available up front. Unlike room selection, students can cancel and rebook their move-in appointment freely until it closes. So let's say you log on, your time comes to log on and you pick Monday well, Monday's not going to be an option because we do move in Tuesday through Thursday. You pick Tuesday at 8 a.m. And then later that day, you're talking with your student or your family and they go, well, that time doesn't really work for us. Can we try for Tuesday at 10 a.m.? Your student can go back into the portal, log back into the appointment section. And if there's anything available at the time they want, they can just rebook and pick a new time. Every time they make a selection, like let's say they book an appointment, they cancel an appointment, or they change an appointment, the system is set up to send an automatic confirmation to the student's Virginia Tech email address. And so they can track, yes, I made that change, it was recorded, I've received that automatic confirmation. This is also a great way to know if you don't get that automatic confirmation, it wasn't recorded, something didn't go through, it timed out, we didn't click the right buttons. And so don't wander away until you get that confirmation email. I do see that I've got some questions over here in the Q&A. I'm going to look at those real quick and then come back to you. When do students get to pick their move-in date? We will cover that in just a minute. Will there be a time slot to access the list of appointments? Yes. So if I opened it all to everyone at the same time, we would crash our portal. I can't buy enough server space to let everyone in at the same time, so we have to time gate it. So it will be in contract signature order, much like room selection. Someone asked, why would VTC housing bill be adjusted? I'm not entirely sure I understand the context of that question. All cadets live in the upper quad, but you might get a default bill, and then once we have the assignment, the default bill gets removed, and then the bill that's attached to the building and room goes on, but it would be in the same amount because it's for the same space. When will they get the time? Yes, a lot of folks are asking very similar questions. Can they see the Q&A, Barry, as it comes up? I'm not sure.
I think they can, because I think they can upvote those, but I will say that those four all kind of came immediately, and then I've been sort of trying to search for answers too.
Okay. If you happen to notice that a question has already been asked, I promise asking it multiple times isn't going to make me get there any faster. I will get there as fast as I can. We will be doing this in the next few weeks. I'll get into time specific a little bit in a minute. When our move-in times and arrive on campus, how will parking work? Will we need a pass or something, or will we need to pay? So part of the point of doing appointments is that we actually send you a parking pass via your student's Virginia Tech email that lists out their date and their time of their appointment, the parking lot they're supposed to go to, and then their long-term parking lot. And then that placard needs to be printed, and it will need to be in the dashboard of your vehicle, and that is going to be how you get into the parking lot, and also helps us keep track if folks are staying longer than their move-in appointment. We know who to start reaching out to about it's time to move your vehicle to long-term parking. And because we do this, Parking Services does not ask for people to pay. This is something that we do as part of the move-in process. Now, if you get a little out of pocket and maybe you park where it's not a real parking spot, or you're still here 3 days later, that might be a different story. But on move-in day itself, when you have your appointment, you do not need to worry about parking. We have a question about sending packages ahead of time. I'm not going to cover that today. We have a lot more to cover, but we have another webinar in a couple of weeks where I'll be joined by our residential well-being colleagues. And the purpose of that is to go more in depth on what it looks like on the move-in day itself. And so we'll cover packages and things like that during that webinar. So you're going to have to come back. Do both roommates need to book at the same time? Nope. Your roommates can come whenever you need to come. Okay, there's a lot more questions that I'm going to be able to get to and move forward. So I'm going to keep moving forward. We'll come back to these as we can pick them off.
Thanks, Nickie. Yeah, just keep working through it. I'll tick around a little bit and try to help folks out. But generally, folks, we're going to probably have to wait till the end to get a lot of these questions answered. We do appreciate your questions, and the more helpful they can be to everybody, the better off they are too. We do want to get your questions answered, and if we can't do it in the webinar tonight, we can do it by email, and you can email
100%.
us at families@vt.edu. Families@vt.edu.
So I want to get into a little bit of specific things as it relates to LLP participants and general assignment participants. So our living learning programs, they have time set aside on the Thursday of move-in. So that would be August 22nd, in which those programs are going to get together and they're going to spend a lot of time together doing LLP things on that Thursday. So given that, if your student is a member of a living learning program, they are only going to see move-in times for Tuesday and Wednesday. That's a commitment we have made to our living learning partners to make sure that there are enough move-in appointments on Tuesday and Wednesday for all of their participants to arrive in time to be present for their LLP programs on Thursday. So just putting that out there now. Now for our general assignment students, you're going to see times on all 3 days. You're going to see Tuesday times, you're going to see Wednesday times, and you're going to see Thursday times. But I do want to sort of set some expectations for our LLP participants. This is something that we do in advance with them to make sure that we are supporting their program. So in terms of when this is going to happen, we are obviously still in the tail end of room selection. And as I'm sure you can imagine, I can't really set up move-in appointments for a student until their room selection is done. And so when students are either they finish their assignment process or if they are going to be placed by our folks, then that's going to happen first. And then the second week of July is when you'll start hearing from us about move-in times. And so we've got a couple weeks to go yet. We still are in the throes of room selection. This is the housing services way. We run headlong from one process to another as fast as we can to try to make sure we get folks taken care of. So with that said, your student could be we're going to talk a little bit about early arrivals because I know this is a big question for a lot of folks. There are kind of two kinds of early arrivals. There's an early arrival with a group that has already received prior approval from our department. That might be a living learning program returner who is a leader in the program who's coming back early to help get the program together. That may be an international student who needs to attend international student orientation with Cranwell. That might be, we have some other programs, maybe through the Honors College or through our Black College Institute who are doing some special pre-arrival programs. If your student is participating in one of those pre-approved groups, they're not going to do any of this. We're going to pre-assign their move-in time because we have already pre-approved with their group of what day they're going to arrive. And so there is no purpose in me sending your student through the move-in appointment when I already know exactly what day and time they're going to get here. So instead, if your student is participating in one of those pre-approved groups, they're going to get an email from us that says our records indicate you're going to in one of our early arrival groups. You're participating in, and we'll list whatever group it is. We have worked out with your program that you're going to be arriving on this day at this time. And so they're going to be preset. They're not going through move-in selection. Now, if your student is not on one of those pre-approved groups, but you want to come in earlier than the 3 move-in days that we have set, there is some availability to do that. We call those a personal early arrival or a paid early arrival, because you're not arriving early because you need to, because of university business. You're arriving early because you want to, which is fine. But there is a distinction that we make between groups that we are required to come in early in order to participate in a particular program and folks that want to come in early for themselves. So that personal early arrival, I do want to be clear, is not available for our cadet groups. Those spaces won't be ready before new cadet arrival. But for our civilians, that will be available. You'll be able to book an arrival as early as August 13th. You cannot come in earlier than that. Our spaces simply won't be ready. I know it's a common perception that we're kind of just, it's quiet around here right now. It's the summer. It is not quiet around here, and there are people everywhere. We have a very robust conference and guest services operation, and we also have a lot of summer construction projects. And so our buildings are in use or occupied year round. And so the spaces just won't be ready. Either between summer construction or conferences, that 13th date is going to be the earliest someone can pay to arrive early. That process to sign up for that will launch alongside the move-in appointment process. So they'll both be available in July. If you choose that option, that personal or paid early arrival, the student will be billed a per night rate based on where they're living in the fall. So I can't give you an exact amount right now because I don't know where your student lives. But one of the things that we do in the portal when they go to book that is we list, if you're living in this building, it will be this amount per night, so that that information is available to you before you make the choice to book it. Our goal with these paid early arrivals is to put the students directly into their fall space, but I do want to be upfront that we can't always guarantee that. If we have a summer construction project that's running later, or if we have a summer group that hasn't quite finished their time yet, then we may not be able to get a student directly into their space, especially if they come on the early end toward the 13th. And if that is the case, we will reach out to that student on an individual basis and say, we're not going to be able to put you directly into your fall assignment when you arrive. We're going to do a temporary space somewhere else. So I just want to be clear about that. That's not our goal. It's not the smoothest experience for students, but that is our reality, that we do use these buildings year round. And so there is a small chance that that could happen, especially the earlier you try to arrive. And at this time, I'm not expecting to have to block any buildings. Last year, there were some buildings we couldn't offer early arrivals to because we knew there was just no way we could get them into their space any earlier than the move-in time. I'm not currently expecting to do that, but I also, again, can't guarantee that if one of our summer projects has a major issue, that we won't need those extra few days to be able to take care of that. So we're working with our partners in renovations to kind of get a sense of, is anything behind schedule? Are we having any issues? And if that's the case, we will notify students when we send out the information about the paid early arrival. It's not currently on the agenda, though. All right, so with that said, I'm going to try to catch a couple of these questions, and let's see if I can help with any of them. My student tried to get on wait list for other dorms. We don't run wait lists for other residence halls. Just for kind of context, my staff consists of me and 3 assistant directors and a small army of incredible student workers, but there are still only about 4 of us who do all of this work. And so we don't have the personnel bandwidth to maintain individual wait lists for residence halls. So if a student is looking to make a change, my advice would be, once we get here in August and we open up the room change process, they're welcome to explore that at that time. Hopefully this answered the question. Some folks are saying, I'm coming from out of state. We thought moving was 8:20. If you want to come in at 8:20, you could explore the paid early arrival. I do think this is a great time to maybe share our important dates website. So I'm gonna share my screen quickly. Well, let me move the Q&A out of the way so that you can actually see it. So something that we do every year, are you able to see? It may be too big or too small. Is that visible? Perfect. So on the residential experience webpage, housing.vt.edu, if you started from our main page, and you scroll down, you're going to see an important dates link. We updated this in the spring, late spring, to include our dates all the way out to spring of 2025. And so all the way out to closing next May is up here and posted, publicly available for anybody. So obviously right now we're in summer, we've got fall here, and then spring 2025. So we try to make sure that this is updated. Like, I already have spring out here, but if I didn't, it would be updated no later than September. So we're shooting for well over a semester prior to it being relevant, getting those dates out to you. So this website may be your best friend with that. So with that said, if you want to look at a paid early arrival to come in on the 20th, you're welcome to do that. You also can look at moving in on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. We've answered that. How long in advance do students get their move-in options to pick? Our goal whenever we're doing anything for selection is to give students notice at least 48 hours ahead of time. So if their move-in time is going to be on Friday, then we are going to, at the very latest, get them notice on Wednesday. I like earlier, but 48 hours is our sort of drop dead goal there. Our move-in times for all occupants of room, nope, those are individual. So this is each individual picking their own time to come in. It does not matter when your roommate comes in. If the time that they're going to be here doesn't work for you, then don't worry about it. Pick whatever works for you. This is a great question. Are we limited on the number of vehicles brought during move-in? We're really going to dig into this kind of thing at the next webinar, but I will give you a hint. Please bring one. You're only going to get one move-in pass. And we'll talk about this more in the move-in, like the next webinar with our RWB colleagues. But I think it's wise for folks to actually see the space in combination with their roommate before they make decisions about organizational items and plastic drawers and whatnot, so that way you are kind of working together well. But yeah, you're only going to get one move-in parking pass. That's several of those. Okay. How long is each move-in time? Again, we're gonna really focus on this during the next webinar. They're 1 hour. We have a question about, does this include the residential colleges? I'm not 100% clear on the context of that. However, a residential college is one of our living learning programs. So they are the folks, they are part of the group who's gonna see either the Tuesday or the Wednesday times. The Honors College as a whole is not a pre-approved group. No, there may be some scholarship students within the HRC or Hillcrest. So if your student hasn't already heard from their program that they need to come in early, it's probably not relating to them. How long does the move-in take? A lot of these questions are really gonna be covered during our residential well-being time, because that's the point of that, is what does it feel like on the day of move-in? I'm trying to take care of logistics right now, so if I'm short, it's because I want to make sure I get to as many questions as possible. And I know that we'll go into these kinds of questions in a lot more depth in a couple of weeks. But you're going to have a parking pass for 1 hour to unload, and then how long it takes you to get settled and feel like your student's in a good place is kind of between you and your student.
And Nickie, I do want to address that a little bit from this is one answer that we can provide from our office, because we have gotten that question a lot. Like, okay, we're planning to take our student out to dinner after move-in, and then we're going to go do things in Blacksburg. We want families to know that actually your student will have both mandatory and highly recommended activities after move-in, beginning in the evening, that we feel as a university are very important to their belonging, their inclusion, to getting in and knowing the university and starting to build community with other students and with the resident staff here at Virginia Tech. So it is our very, very, very strong recommendation that families plan the move-in and then plan to say goodbye. Now, if you've already booked the hotel, enjoy a wonderful night in Blacksburg in the area, or come up to where I live in Floyd, Virginia, and enjoy your time here. Plan for those times together as a family before the move-in, not after the move-in, because after move-in, your student will have a lot of both mandatory and highly recommended activities to participate in. Okay, want everybody to hear that loud and clear. And I know that doesn't sit well with a lot of folks because you've already made plans, but make sure you have all the information before you're making some of those plans. Okay, Nickie.
Perfect. A couple of questions. Student asked, can we visit the state, the space ahead of move-in? I'm not going to be able to do that for you. Like I said, our buildings are in use year round, either by summer conferences or we have some renovations going on. So you're welcome to come to and take a tour with our new student and family programs folks. They have a sample room set up in Vauder Hall that you can look at, but your specific room, we're not going to be able to accommodate that.
Yeah, so if you have signed up for an admitted student visit, they're an optional family and student activity, but we recommend it. Admitted student visits, I'll throw the link into the chat here in a minute. Part of the tour is you do get to go see a sample, kind of a basic sample bedroom to kind of get a feel for what it looks like. And there are websites throughout Virginia Tech that have diagrams and examples, and there's videos. So dig a little deeper, you'll find that information.
Yeah, so I would say that if you look at the VT Residential Instagram, you're going to see in the stories are sort of walkthroughs of a lot of the residence halls that give you some visuals of some sample rooms. I will say, because we get this question a lot, official floor plans are considered confidential by the university. We do not have approval to give those to anyone or to answer questions in such a way that we would effectively be giving away a floor plan. So what you see on the move-in website in terms of move-in maps, which again, we will talk about more in our next webinar, is as specific as we can provide. So if you ask us how close is someone to the bathroom, I'm not going to necessarily be able to answer that question. So this is a safety and security measure, and so I just want to be upfront about that. How does billing work if you receive the presidential scholarship? This is a great transition into sort of our last big topic of the evening, which is billing. So fall bills are issued in July. And so we will be working to make sure everyone's bills are on and ready to go and exported to the bursar's office by the billing date in July. Now, Housing Services does not collect these funds directly. I don't know the first thing about how you pay your bill in the big sense. I do know there's multiple ways to do that. You can set up an authorized payer. There's ways to report scholarships. I know a lot of folks have like a 529 plan, but I am not qualified to answer specific questions about those. That's what our wonderful colleagues in the bursar's office do. And so what I would recommend is if you're looking at your financial aid package, you're looking at scholarships, is to review the information from financial aid and to review the information from the bursar's office. And so their website is bursar.vt.edu. And so they're going to have things on their website about when payments are due, what it looks like if there are late fees, how to report scholarships, how to sign up for the payment plan, how to use a 529 plan, all of which I do not want to give you bad information about. And so I'm going to redirect you to the bursar's office. What Housing Services can talk with you about once you have a FERPA passcode is why a housing bill was issued in a specific amount. Because that's what we know, right? We know what our rates are. We know where a student is assigned. We know how that works. After that, we're not necessarily going to be able to get into the details of, well, if you apply this scholarship and you use this loan and this is how we will inevitably get that wrong. We're not going to try. So we're going to connect you to our bursar's office colleagues for that. And please don't bring me any checks. I'm going to turn around and send you back to the bursar's office because they collect all the funds. We don't take money directly in our office. So with that said, I do strongly recommend you review the bursar's website. It is a wealth of information. It even includes a sample bill so that you know what a statement looks like and what elements there are and kind of how to review it and read it. And so like that is available and I can't recommend it enough. I think that covers the big picture about billing. What was really important to me to cover regarding billing is that my staff, once you have a FERPA passcode, is going to be able to respond to, we were billed this amount for housing. Can you talk to me about why? We can dig into that. If the question is, we have this big bill and we've paid this amount in scholarships and this amount in loans, what happens if we don't pay this amount? Or what does a 529 plan cover? We're going to redirect you. So just want to be very clear about what kinds of things we are knowledgeable about and what kinds of things we're not. So that's kind of the big picture on billing. I do want to say that per the bursar's website, the due date for fall bills is August 12th. And so that is an important date. You want to make sure that things are covered. What happens from our side if student bills aren't paid is that a few weeks into the semester, we start getting lists of students who may be unenrolled for non-payment, and we have to follow up on that in a way that's unpleasant for a lot of folks. Like if you haven't paid your bill and you get unenrolled, you can't stay, which is something we don't want to see happen to anybody. So please be aware that those due dates are really, really important. So with that said, I'm going to kind of transition a little bit more to the Q&A. Barry, if there's anything you can think of that I didn't really cover, I'm happy to go back to it. But I'm going to focus on the Q&A for now. And we only got about 20 minutes left, so we'll try to get through as many of these as possible.
You're doing great. I know a lot of folks have a lot of questions about the dates and choosing those dates. I'm going to take care of car questions that folks want to know if their students should bring a car. We're going to say they can, but they really don't need to, and you really shouldn't put them through the hassle of that. We have excellent public transportation here at Virginia Tech. That's only getting better even around campus. There's a new initiative. So teach your student to use public transportation. I know we're sort of in the country here in Blacksburg, but excellent public transportation, not just in Blacksburg, but the entire region. So keep that car
your students, absolutely. The Blacksburg Transit is free to them with a Virginia Tech ID, and that's sort of the bus system throughout, and that a lot of our off-campus students use that to get back to campus for their classes. Our on-campus students use it to get to Christiansburg, to Roanoke. We do have a truly fantastic, I'm gonna stop talking about cars though, because I'm here about housing. We have someone who asked if you have another student moving on a different university, can you ask for the first day of move-in? Generally speaking, the response I give to folks who are like, we really have a need for a specific day. My ask to you is to try going through the selection process first. Because most of the time, folks are able to resolve this through their own selection. They get there and we slice and dice appointments down so that we have, if you're living in a drill field building, then that's one set of appointments. If you're living in AJ, that's another set of appointments, because we are being very mindful of how many people can come into what parking lot to therefore get to what building at a time. So most of these will actually resolve themselves through simply logging on and picking the day and time that works for you. If when you log on at the day and time that you don't see the day and time that you want, pick something. Don't just not pick anything, because what happens if you don't pick anything is then I assign something to you. And if I assign something to you, I'm just filling in where I've got spaces to go. And that's not necessarily going to be to your advantage to not pick anything. So pick something. And then you're welcome, your student, I really want to hear from your student. Your student is welcome to reach out to housing@vt.edu and explain their circumstances. We will review it. I cannot make any promises. As we talked about sort of at the top, we do move-in appointments for a lot of reasons. We do it to manage traffic flow. We do it to make sure we have adequate parking in the spaces that we need them. We do it to make sure that we have adequate laundry carts and hand trucks. We do it to make sure that we have a good move-in flow and experience. So if I truly cannot find a way to get everyone who wants to come in a particular time in, then unfortunately that is the way it's going to be. So we will look at it. We will do everything we can, but pick something, and then we will do our best to make it if you can't make it. I'm gonna, if you've got a raised hand, drop it in the Q&A. I'm gonna get there as fast as I possibly can. We have some folks who are asking about the IDs for their rooms. That's a great question. If you have a mailing address that's here in the United States and you get your ID in by the deadline, which I don't remember off the top of my head, but I will go to the Hokie Passport website to look it up because that's where that lovely information lives. We go to the Hokie Passport website and look at their ID card photo basics, photo submission. Oh, that's a whole video. Well, then what I'm going to do is drop in the chat the Hokie Passport, the direct link to their website. And so on that website is a video. It looks like it's about 7 minutes and 18 seconds long about Hokie Passport Services basics. And so that will have information about the Hokie Passport. And there's also a button on that page to submit a photo. So students who submit their photo by the deadline, which I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head, will get theirs mailed to them if they have a mailing address in the United States. If the photo comes in after that deadline, then the student will need to go to the Hokie Passport office upon arrival and pick up their ID from them. We'll work that out. If you are an international student, they do not mail Hokie Passports internationally. And so one of the things that I know Cranwell is working on with Hokie Passport is whether some of those IDs can be released to Cranwell staff to verify identity upon arrival. But if assuming your photo is in on time, it will be pulled and held for you. It won't be mailed internationally. Can we confirm the dates that are selected for move-in? All right, so if you are a member of a living learning program, you're only going to see dates on the Tuesday and the Wednesday. So that is the 20th and the 21st. If you are general assignment, you will see times across all 3 days, the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd. I lost the Q&A. Come back to me. Our son is in Meraki. Yes, LP move-in is on the Tuesday and the Wednesday. How likely will move-in signups take place before July 17th? We will definitely be starting the sign up before July 17th. It won't have ended by then. And so what we will do is we will leave the ability to book and change bookings through probably the last part of July. I would guess that we will probably close selection. A little of this is, I got to look at how many people are pre-approved because how many people need to pick a time. So I know exactly how long that's going to run. And those lists of pre-approved aren't due to me till Friday. So there's a little bit of uncertainty in my numbers here. I would guess that we're probably going to close the selection probably around the 29th. And because what I need to do after that is start to create access files for our Hokie Passport colleagues. And so there comes a point in which I have to close it. And so up until that time, students can book, rebook, and select. After the 29th, I will close it. And then anyone who hasn't selected will get assigned a time, probably by me. Besides the moving cart, is there any other equipment or help available to move in other student volunteers who may be able to help? We will get into this more in depth in the next webinar, but no, our student staff are not going to be able to move people's items for them. They're going to be a great resource for directions. They're going to be a great resource for getting folks a cart. But there is a risk to them if they start touching other people's stuff and lifting and carrying that we don't want to invoke. And so our student volunteers are not going to be able to move folks' items for them.
Just a heads up, the webinar that has more detailed move-in about residential well-being as well as weeks of welcome is July 8th. I put the information in the chat, and all of our Zoom webinars have the same link. I know a lot of folks are like, what's the link? It's the same link that you're on right now. So, but we'll keep putting that in the chat. All right. Perfect. Keep powering through, Nickie. You're doing great.
We're doing it. Did I mention that the Honors College do not follow this process? No, I did not. If you're a cadet, you do not follow the move-in process. We know exactly what day you're coming and you'll work with the Corps on the specific time. If you are part of a pre-approved early arrival group, you should have already received that information from that group. If you have not, then it's probably not you. And so otherwise you would go through the regular process. Do the Pearson West 3-person suites have a bathroom? So there are no suites in Pearson or in the Upper Quad. If you see trad multiple 3, that is a traditional room that is sized to be a triple. So that's a triple room. We do put a micro fridge unit, which has a refrigerator, small freezer, and a microwave in every residence hall room. So that will already be there upon arrival. Do students need to bring a printer? This will be kind of something we cover more later in the next webinar, because it really is going to be more about that, but that's a personal choice. There is an immense number of ways to print here on campus. And so I don't know your student's major. I don't know if they have a particular need for a particular printer, but that will really be more of a personal choice if they want to bring a printer or not. Will bills come in mail or email? This is a great question. My read of the bursar's website, wherein all this information lives, is that they don't send physical copies. So if we were to look at the bursar's website and see what I can find here. Payments. Fees. I was just looking at this earlier. I actually believe they only send bills electronically. There is a great link off their main site called Financial Checklist for New Students, which I think is a really helpful link to have. And so right at the top of that is an understanding your billing statement. And then there's sort of an introductory video, and they've got step-by-step accessing the student portal Hokie Spa, accepting or declining financial aid, reporting scholarships, enrolling in direct deposit, granting FERPA access, reviewing an e-bill, and paying tuition and fees. And so I think this checklist is a great sort of step-by-step guide for a lot of our financial questions.
And Martin L just said that he got his both email and mail and got it in the mail today. So yeah,
we love that. Then I don't get bills, so I don't have this is why I refer people to the bursar's offices, because they're the ones who know. So hopefully that's helpful. Can students bring bicycles? Yes, they need to register them. We'll talk about that more in our next webinar. I might have missed this. Picking your move-in time is time slot similar to how they pick dorms, in the sense that it will be in contract order. Yes. In the sense that they can make changes after selection. No. So when they pick a room, that's it. They make a selection, it's locked in. You pick a move-in appointment, you can come back and change that up until we close it. So there's a little more give with that. Can I repeat the due dates for the fall bill again? Based on the bursar's website, they have a payment due date link, and they say the semester of fall 2024 payment deadline is August 12th, 2024. So hopefully that is helpful. When do charges get posted to your account? They get posted in July. We get a monthly email from the bursar that says all charges have to be entered by a certain date in order for them to go on the bill. Haven't gotten that email for July yet, so I don't have that exact date of when that bill is going out. It's generally mid-month, but I don't have an exact date on that. I know we don't have move-in times yet, but it will be morning, afternoon, or the whole day. It's the whole day. Our earliest move-in time slot appointment is gonna be 7 a.m. and our last move-in appointment is 5 p.m. And so we really try to give folks as full of a range of the day as possible. Do I have any info about purchasing student football tickets for transfer students? I do not. Any ideas on that one, Barry?
Repeat that again about football.
Any info about purchasing student football tickets for transfer students?
Nope. Go to the athletics webpage, hokiesports.com, or have them check their information about getting those tickets. Now, again, athletics department is very, very, very separate from everything else at Virginia Tech. Although we're all Hokies, and go Hokies, of course.
Yes. Earliest, latest time available. Yep, our earliest appointment will be 7 a.m. Our last one will be 5 p.m. How long are we allowed to stay in long-term parking? You'll be able to stay for the day of the move-in appointment. So like if you are signed up for a move-in appointment on Tuesday, then you can be in that long-term parking during the day on Tuesday. Once we get later into the evening on Tuesday, overnight, it's time to go. Can roommates swap dates or times for a move-in? No, that's not how that works. You're each going to pick your own move-in day and time. Where can I find the room board fee? That's a fantastic question. Where can I find the room and board fee for each dorm? So off of our housing website, we have in a very similar page link, we have our housing and dining rates. So I'm going to drop that. Oh, Barry just got to it before me in the chat. You're the best. And so those are posted. We get them usually. We don't get them for an upcoming year until very late in the spring semester prior. So we got this year's rates late in April. And so then we put them on the website. And so if your student is returning to housing for the 25-26, I'm trying not to think about that too hard, academic year, we are unlikely to know those rates until April of 2025. But as soon as we get them posted and they stay up for that year. Can we tell us if Hokey passports are mailed by USPS or courier services? That will be, my understanding is the US Postal Service. I do not believe it will be by a courier service, but don't quote me on that. I think that's a great question for my Hokey passport friends. Seems unlikely that we would use a courier service. Do we have approximate date that move-in selection time will start? Like I said, probably we're looking at, students will start hearing from us the second week of July. You can only move in for an hour. Does that mean the car can be parked? Yes. And so for clarity, your parking pass is going to be good for 1 hour at the designated parking lot for your student's residence hall. And then after that hour, we're going to ask you to take your car and move it to our long-term parking lots. You are welcome to help them set up, although as Barry mentioned, there are some required and some strongly encouraged events that they need to attend. And so please do be mindful of that as well. To confirm, no one can pick room move-in before 7/17 is not LC. So 7/17 is July. So we're not moving in July, we're moving in August. So what I said about the early arrival, if you're looking to pay to come in prior to the standard dates, the earliest that's going to be available is August 13th for arrival. No earlier than that, the rooms simply won't be ready. They'll still be in use for summer conferences, or if we have construction that might be going on there. Yes, the HRC is a living learning program. It's a big one and we love it, but it is a living learning program. And so it will be Tuesday and Wednesday. Do we still have Hokey helpers doing move-in? We're going to have a veritable army of people at tables and walking the residence halls to greet and guide and direct. And this will be a big part of our conversation in our next webinar about what you can expect from each of those positions. So yes, we're going to have a small army of Hokey helpers. Yes, microfridges are supplied to every dorm room, everyone, all of them. So they're going to be there. If they're not there, you need to let us know. Do we need to remove everything from our dorms during the holiday? If you're coming back after the holiday, then no. And so we do offer the ability for students to register for Thanksgiving, winter, and spring breaks, assuming that they're enrolled both before and after the break period. Your student will get this information to the Virginia Tech email when we get much closer to that time frame. But as long as you're still enrolled, but after that break period, please don't move anything out. That's a lot of work.
There's a whole pre-holiday prep list that's given to just about everybody on campus, including some of us who have offices that we have to go through. So they'll get that information. Yeah.
That's true. Oh, yay. We already got a Hokey passport that's arrived. I love that. Traditional rooms on 4th floor paint have different measurements. Where can I find specific measurements? Your student can email us and we can give them some general information. We may not have the specific down to the 1/4 inch measurements available to us. Here we go. If you move in August 21st, 2nd, which activities will be different? Will activities each evening be different? This is a great thing to come back forward to talk about it, our July 8th. And I'm not trying to put you off, but what I'm saying here is Rebecca Caldwell, our Director of Residential Wellbeing, will be here for that. And this is her bailiwick. Between Rebecca and our new student and family program staff, they are going to put it all on those nights, and they're going to be able to kind of go over with you what do these nights look like so that people get a similar experience. So whether you come in on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, those key things that are really important are going to be covered for everyone, and Rebecca will talk with you about how that works. Did the students receive the list of activities for move-in day? That has not been put out yet, I don't believe, although this is a great plug for the Hokies on Track app, because I believe that's how they know what's coming up.
Correct. Good. Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. The Hokies on Track app. So families, if you just Google search it, I'll also find the link. That's your students, one of your students' main way using their smartphone to know what the schedule is for the move-in dates and the weeks of welcome. There's been a lot of questions about those activities and things. Things haven't necessarily been formalized. It's going to be different for each student depending on your college and your major. But I will just emphasize again that after move-in, after your student moves in, I mean, unless you're moving in first thing in the morning, there's going to be some time. But beginning that afternoon, that evening, there are some mandatory as well as highly recommended activities and meetings that your student will start to attend. There's also been a question about what if my student doesn't move in until the last move-in day? Are they going to miss out on a lot of fun stuff? And the answer is no, because the approach that we're taking, the approach that these activities are, is a waterfall approach. Where like, if you move in on day one, then your day two looks like this. But if you move in on day two, then your day three looks like that person's day two. And then things don't all kind of conjoin until the end. So everyone gets the same experience. But once again, we do recommend that after move in, bye-bye, see you later. We're going to go enjoy our semi-empty nest for a little while.
I'm just trying to get through some of these questions. Can you change your roommate after you choose a room? Once a student makes a room selection, that's it. They can't go back in and change it. If your student has a roommate they'd like to live with, that your student and their roommate are welcome to email us and outline the room swap that they would like to do. We are going to ask that all 4 people involved, if it's 4, if it's 2 doubles, if it's a triple, then we'll go to 5. So that they can, because it's not at that point just about either your student or their preferred roommate moving. One of the non-preferred roommates also has to move, and so we're going to ask for all the parties involved to confirm for us that they're aware and agree to the swap before we process it. I do want to say it's really, really important that that's something your student is exploring, that happens before they move in. We always have a pause period upon move-in where we don't make any room changes until everyone gets here and we have everyone accounted for. And we call that roster verification. And so if this is something your student wants to explore, before moving in is the time to do it. Once you get here, we're going to put a pause on it while we verify our roster to make sure everyone is here and where they're supposed to be before we reopen room changes. I looked on CashNet and didn't find any charges. It's a great question. I'm more familiar with HokiSpot and Hoki Wallet. I'm not as familiar with what CashNet is. It may be perfectly valid. I just don't have any experience with it. And so I would say this is a great thing to look at on the Bursar's website. And so they have a page just about payments. And then let's see, do I have anything else about? I think that link up above about the checklist is also really helpful for that. I just don't want to give y'all bad information about payments. I could get myself into a lot of trouble real fast.
Okay, Nickie, we have reached the hour mark.
Oh gosh, we have.
I know that time flies when you're trying to help people. Listen, folks, if you're still watching, we're going to keep answering some questions, but I'm going to share my screen, and it's got that carrot that you've been waiting for, that link that you wanted in order to be able to evaluate our webinar. So right now you should see, I think, if it's all working. So we had some questions about, can we get a chat in the Q&A? So the way that you get that is on your screen right now, you'll see that there is a QR code. It has the URL underneath of it. This is a survey, a very easy survey where you can evaluate this webinar. Look, it's a lot to try to squeeze into an hour, but do this evaluation, share your email with us as part of this evaluation, and we'll send you a one-time email with the attachment, and we'll have the chat and all the Q&A all cleaned up, as well as a list of all the links that we've referred to.
I do just want to say one thing. Our last anonymous attendee asked a fantastic question. Is the fee listed for each dorm per semester or for the entire school year? It's a great question. It's per semester. We only bill one semester at a time. And so we only bill for fall in July. We will bill for spring in December, and those bills are due in January. So that is a fantastic question. Thank you for asking that. Hopefully that's helpful.
And that's a good answer, Nickie. Yeah, kind of everything happens here as a university, each one semester at a time. And even like, we have our summer semester, if you will, too. So we do welcome in the Q&A any thank yous or praise that you would like.
It's also okay if you don't want to. We're not gonna hold you hostage to it.
Well, look, I'm a little more needy than you are, clearly, but we do appreciate everybody who participated, who watched. We appreciate your patience as we worked to get through everything. If you have questions that we didn't answer, we're going to stay on for a little while after I stop the recording, but you can also email families@vt.edu. Make sure that if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the Hokie Family Hub. If you're not already looking at nowwhat.vt.edu, the new student checklist kind of breaks it all down. We do have admitted student visits in July, which we've been planning for a week now here in our office, and we're very excited about, where you get to see that sample dorm room and just see the university and experience it a little bit. And just make sure that your student is now receiving the information. Yes, you're still paying the bill, but your student is receiving the information at their @vt.edu email. So make sure your student is checking that every day. It's time to put your student in charge as the captain of this journey, with you in a support role, not you in the driver's seat anymore, even if you're bringing 2 cars to move in. Hey, zing. Okay, so we're going to stop the recording, and we'll stay on for any more questions that you might throw into the chat for a few minutes. Well, I want to thank one more time Nickie Smith, the Director for Housing Services at Virginia Tech, and working in the background helping me has been Samantha McDonald, our summer NOTA intern, graduate assistant from Bowling Green here at Virginia Tech. We're very excited to have her, and we're very excited that you participate. Please check the dates for our future webinars, and we hope to see you there. Email us if there's any questions that we can help you with. And now I will stop the recording. I can figure out how to do it. I can't ever figure out. Stop the recording.